Thank you. My name is Ilana. I'm a compulsive overeater. When I write down my food, I committed to my sponsor 3 weighed and measured meals a day off of Gray Sheet, and I don't eat no matter what. And I also do eat no matter what, because one time I didn't eat the right amount of food. It's an amount of food that nobody would eat just one of, and I did. And I went back to day 1 after having 2 years of back-to-back abstinence. And so I really learned in these rooms that it's important to take care of me. And I came into, as I said before, my my abstinence date is September 21st, 1997. And I started off in the OA rooms. I lived in a family. I was born in Israel, and I came here because we came because my father just couldn't afford to feed me, he said. I was, I don't remember being a compulsive overeater as a child, and I came here when I was 5 years old. But times were really hard then. People were they were living on rations, and they came here. And I remember the beautiful food that I saw here. And my mother was definitely a compulsive overeater, as well as her family. And my father was, but didn't have the outward manifestations. And I didn't either until I had my second child, and or was pregnant with her. And I just, when she was 2 years old, I just could not lose. I was still looked like I was pregnant. And I just remember watching her eat something, and she was eating it so slowly. I'm like, how can she do that? How can she take one little bite at a time? And, I still don't eat that way. I still like to inhale my food. But I don't care. I have all of my food. It's great food. I love it. I'm very happy. But at that time, I inhaled food, any food that I can see. And my mother recommended that I go to Overeaters Anonymous. And at that time, this was in 1979, so there were different food programs and different food options in Overeaters Anonymous. And I heard about Gray Sheet, but I did Blue Sheet, and it worked for a while. And I had 2 pregnancies later, and my weight would vary, and then I couldn't keep it up anymore. I was lying to my sponsor. I'd tell her my food, and I would never have what I told her. And I remember meeting her in a store one time, and I was so embarrassed because I didn't look the way that she had remembered that I looked. And so speaking of looks, I will show you. I don't know what I weighed at my top weight. This is, I blocked out some of the people because you don't need to see them. So that's me before I came into Gray Sheet. I still didn't come till about a year or 2 later. And I remember wearing the scarf like that because I thought it would make me look thinner. And this was a trip to my family in Israel, and this was a trip again when I was already doing Gray Sheet. And I remember when I went to visit, let me see how to stop. Oh, here it is. When I went to visit once before Gray Sheet, I was telling this person that I eat very little during the week. On the Sabbath, I eat a lot. And he said, well, you don't look like you don't eat a lot all the time. And I just was so embarrassed and so humiliated. And did I say that right? He said that I don't look like I don't, well, meaning that I eat a lot all the time. And like I said, I don't know what I weighed anymore. I just stopped weighing myself and started buying clothing in the larger women's section. And I thought I was just going to be like that forever because I had an aunt who had been thin all of her life and then became heavy, and my father was thin all of his life and then he became heavy. And so I thought I just, was destined to be obese, and that was the way that it was. And I remember one time the was a thought in the back of my head about gray sheet. And I didn't know anybody in gray sheet. I just remembered that title gray sheet from when I went to that OA meeting. Um, and then I was eating out of bags, and that just was uncontrollable. And I remember I was working in the hospital at the time, and I made a phone call in a phone booth, and when I came out across the hall, I saw somebody that I knew from Overeaters Anonymous, and I went over to her. I just told her everything that was going on. My husband and I were going to get divorced. It just was a horrible time, and I was thinking of changing my career. And she said, how could you, um, make any changes or any decisions without God in your life? How can you make any decisions with sugar in your body? She gave me her phone number and told me about Gray Sheet, and I went that night to the meeting, and I've been going to Gray Sheet ever since then. Not that I started doing what we all do at that time. I still wanted to do it my way. It took me a couple of weeks until I got a sponsor, and my sponsor has been my sponsor for all of these years, which has been about 20, maybe 30 years that she's my sponsor. And I went back to day one several times, sometimes for mistakes, sometimes for willfulness. And my sponsor helped me a lot. There were things that I did not want to give up. I didn't want to give up something that we put in coffee, and people were telling me to give it up because I never remembered to finish it at my meal. Like an hour later, oh, it's still in there. I didn't finish it. And so when I was really upset and I told my sponsor about it, and because everybody was saying, just give it up, give it up. And she said, why don't you set an alarm so that you know that you need to finish it by this, by within the hour of your meal. And that made all the difference in the world. And I think what I love about Gray Sheet so much is that it's not black and white. I love that it's written on a gray sheet because for me, it just has so many options. There's so many variables within the gray sheet. Somebody called it a menu, and we have such a vast food and such a vast, beautiful menu to choose from. And I can cup if I want to. I can weigh if I want to. I can use a tablespoon. I can weigh my fat. That's a lot of flexibility. I can have 3 raws. They could be huge. They could be tiny. It's there's so much freedom. And I enjoy that so much because it can make my meals be glamorous and beautiful and simplistic. I can eat foods out of a can. If I'm in a pinch, I love having canned food. I always have canned food in the house because sometimes I just don't feel like making anything. The holidays are coming up. There's a lot of cooking that I'm doing. I started out having only 5 people coming, and there are 10 people coming. And I have everything that I need. I've already started cooking, and I am going to be baking some gray sheet. Somebody gave me a recipe for some gray sheet food before she left on her trip to Japan. So I'm looking forward to making that. That's happening tomorrow. So I want to have, when my family comes to my house, they know that they're having gray sheet food. And that's what we have. It's going to be several courses for them, but it's all going to be abstinent, and they enjoy it, and they thank me for it because they're grateful that they've been able to have an opportunity to eat healthy. I was saying at another meeting that my son's boyfriend never used to eat vegetables. And he learned how to eat vegetables from our house and through my son. So, what we do um, impacts so many people. I'm
That's
going,
10 minutes.
oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm going to be going to Israel next month, in November, and I'm looking forward to being with my great-grandchildren. And I know that I need to have enough food when I'm with them. Whatever I make, they're going to want. So I'm going to make enough for all of them, so that everybody can have. Um, I just want to tell you of my evolution in Gray Sheet. I used to be, I still am very, very shy, painfully shy. And when I first started Gray Sheet, we needed to go to the suggestion was 3 meetings a week. And one of them was supposed to be in Manhattan. And so I started going there, but and then Gray Sheet sent me to another 12-step program, Debtors Anonymous. And then Debtors Anonymous sent me to Al-Anon. And so I had to do a balancing act with 3 different meetings, working full time, having well, no, my kids weren't young at that point anymore, but taking care of my mother, my mother-in-law, who they all lived with us. And so it was a busy household. And how do I balance all of my meetings? And one of the things that helped a lot was the pandemic, because Zoom, we started having Zoom meetings, and that made it easier for me to get to meetings. And I would sometimes go to phone meetings. But if you see the cap that I'm wearing, I couldn't find the cap that I usually wear, but this one is from the, not Roundup, but from the retreat in Connecticut. And I went a few years, this was from, I think, 2016, but I went not this past year, the year before. And it just felt so good to be with everybody. And I didn't feel shy. And I realized that being with everybody would help me to decrease that shyness. So I started to do more meetings, and very recently, I don't know, over the last, well, I guess since the war in Israel, I've just been waking up, and that's all that's been on my mind. I'm sorry, I know it's an outside issue, but it affected my mind so much and still does. And what I started to do was go to phone meetings. And I started to do a lot of phone meetings, and I started to do service at phone meetings. And I started to have a balance. So every morning I do a phone meeting, and sometimes I do other phone meetings as well. And then I have my 2 home Zoom meetings, and sometimes I do another Zoom meeting. And then I have time for my other 12-step meetings also that I do. And gratefully, we also have a live meeting on Long Island. So sometimes I go to that meeting as well. Um, during the years, the steps have been invaluable. It says the first step is that we're powerless over food, dash, our lives have become unmanageable. And my life was so unmanageable. And it was in the 12 steps that that would begin to change. And I'm just so grateful for the steps, for finding a higher power. I thought I could only saw my higher power in one certain way, and somebody mentioned a way that she saw her higher power sign, which was very similar to mine. I was shocked, and I realized that I really see it 3 more times every single day. And it just made me feel like my higher power is really taking care of me in so many different ways that I'm not even aware of, that I'm still learning. So this is a program of learning, progress for the rest of my life. And I'm so grateful to be able to be on that road in good orderly direction, with you guys helping me stay in the lane. Because, I still might want to go out. People say, oh, this is healthy food. Not for me. Maybe it is for you, but it's not for me. And I'm just so great. Is my time up? Do I still have like it is?
In 15 seconds.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Elle, for asking me to speak. And thank you for everybody that does service on this meeting. I owe a debt of gratitude to Gray Sheet that for giving me a life that is beyond my wildest dreams and that continues to grow. And I thank you.